I want to quickly address the questions before I do my prepared. In this current Journal of JAMA Psychiatry that is unfortunately at my bedside and not here in my backpack, there's 2 studies showing that teen cannabis use is down since legalization has been happening in certain states and since medical cannabis is enacted in certain states. That's one thing. The other thing is that if New York State would add opiate addiction to the list of qualifying conditions for the program, that would be very helpful to the physicians in New York. My name is Julie Holland. I'm a married mother of 2, and I've been a psychiatrist in New York City for 25 years. I've been studying drugs and behavior since I was an adolescent growing up in the 70s, and I majored in something called the biological basis of behavior at the University of Pennsylvania. After Temple Med School, I trained at Mount Sinai Hospital, and I spent significant time at the Bronx Veterans Hospital, the Bronx VA, and I now run a large private practice in Manhattan. Before that, I spent 9 years as the attending in charge of the psychiatric emergency room at Bellevue Hospital. If there's one thing I can tell you as a psychiatrist, it is this. People medicate themselves when they are in psychic pain. They will use whatever is available. People are under stress and they are going to seek relief, whether they are CEOs or immigrants or veterans or homeless schizophrenics or soccer moms. All of us in America consume drugs every day to change our consciousness. Caffeine, nicotine, anti-anxiety meds, antidepressants, sleeping pills, pain meds, alcohol. Even sugar will give us a high, crash, and cravings, all a muted imitation of cocaine intoxication. I have patients who binge on comfort foods and others who binge on Netflix episodes. Both experience guilt and remorse and feel powerless to stop. Whatever the drug, human beings look for escape when the going gets tough. And for many Americans, things have been tougher year after year. Suicide rates are up, depression and anxiety rates are up, and it has become normal for people to medicate away their moods in America, whether with prescription or illegal drugs. Cigarettes kill nearly 500,000 Americans every year. Alcohol-related deaths are roughly 1/4 of that. Cannabis does not kill. It is an ancient medicinal plant, the flowering top of a weed that has been cultivated for millennia. Unlike alcohol, which is neurotoxic, meaning it destroys brain matter over the long term, cannabis actually can protect against brain injury. And unlike alcohol, which is associated with domestic violence, rape, suicide, motor vehicle accidents, and barroom brawls, cannabis has no such associations. The vast majority of adults are unharmed by the responsible use of cannabis. The health risks of cannabis misuse are significantly less than those of alcohol and tobacco. And no, evidence does not support a causal gateway relationship between the use of cannabis and the later use of more harmful drugs. People who have used other drugs are more likely to have also used cannabis, but not the other way around. A majority of people who use cannabis do not go on to use other illicit drugs. Legalization and regulation benefits public health by enabling government oversight of the production, testing, labeling, distribution, and sale of cannabis. Ending prohibition creates a legal distinction between underage and adult cannabis use. Legalization takes the cannabis market out of the hands of illicit dealers who do not pay taxes and sell cannabis along with more dangerous drugs to minors as well as adults. This decision, whether to legalize, is primarily about public health, and it's about reforming our broken criminal justice system that throws too many minorities in prison for nonviolent offenses. There are more than 700,000 cannabis arrests in the United States annually, encumbering our overburdened criminal justice system and draining law enforcement's already limited resources. Nationwide, African Americans are nearly 4 times more likely than whites to be arrested for cannabis possession, despite similar usage rates between these 2 groups. In New York State, 80% of those arrested statewide for low-level marijuana possession are Black or Latino. Low-income individuals face disproportionate consequences from cannabis arrests due to inability to pay fines, inadequate access to counsel, potential loss of employment, housing, and student loans. Poverty reduces access to health care and undermines public health. Legalization would reduce the disproportionate impact of the criminal justice system on low-income and minority citizens. Cannabis prohibition has also led to the proliferation of dangerous synthetic cannabinoids. Spice and K2 are two better-known synthetic cannabis substitutes that are not detected in urinalysis and so are preferred by those being drug tested, including members of America's military. These are highly potent drugs that can cause agitation, seizures, and a difficult-to-treat psychosis. At times in the past few years, our city hospitals have been overwhelmed with people intoxicated with these drugs. Never has this been the case with the plant itself. If the natural plant were made available and its use no longer penalized, then these markedly more dangerous synthetics would hopefully disappear. More importantly, our nation is being swamped by an opioid crisis that has reduced the overall longevity of Americans for the first time in decades. Drug overdoses are now the leading cause of death among all Americans under 50. An average of 91 people a day die of opioid overdose. Legal access to cannabis is correlated with a 25% reduction in these opioid overdose deaths. We now have 46 states with some form of legal cannabis program, and states like Colorado and Washington have demonstrated that regulating cannabis works. Officials in these states are doing more than ever before to control cannabis. Legalization enhances public safety by disempowering criminal cartels and freeing police to focus on real crimes. The regulated cannabis market is steadily replacing the criminal market while also creating tens of thousands of jobs, pumping hundreds of millions of dollars of tax revenue into state economies. This can fund education, substance abuse treatment, community reinvestment, but most relevant to me, legalization facilitates research into the health risks and medicinal benefits of cannabis use. I'm the medical monitor for a therapeutic trial of cannabis involving veterans with PTSD. This study is entirely funded by the Colorado state government. Legalization encourages honesty between doctor and patient. It also encourages honesty between family members. Right now you have children hiding their use from their parents, and in many households, parents hiding their use from their children. Modeling healthy behavior can only be done out in the open. We sip wine with dinner, and our children learn moderation. As long as people are forced to hide their behavior, there can be no modeling of healthy use and no moderation. Instead, users will feel guilty, and that shame fuels more compulsive behavior. By prohibiting the use of cannabis, our current drug policies are actually enabling us all to act more like addicts. My friend and neighbor with 2 adult children asked me to tell you this. She is tired of feeling like a criminal. She should not risk losing her job, and younger mothers should not risk losing their children because they are choosing a safer alternative to alcohol. According to DEA Administrative Judge Francis Young, marijuana in its natural form is one of the safest therapeutically active substances known to man, by any measure of rational analysis, he says. But this is the crux of the issue. Our current drug policy is irrational. This is an antiquated policy founded on corporate greed and xenophobia, not scientific or medical facts. Our government has been in denial about the therapeutic effects of this natural substance for too long. To discriminate against a natural herbal medicine that has been used for millennia makes 0 sense. The New York State medicinal cannabis law, I'm sorry to say, is grossly inadequate. Prohibition prevents many patients from getting the medicine they need, even in states that have medical programs set up. My patients should not have to break the law to get the medicine that they need. A recent Gallup poll from October 2017 found nearly 2/3 of Americans, 66%, believe recreational cannabis should be legal. To penalize or imprison people for choosing a healthier alternative to alcohol, cigarettes, or opiates is illogical. And I will tell you as a psychiatrist, it is insanity. I am here today to encourage the state of New York to join the growing number of states that are embracing the future to legalize, tax, and regulate the sale of cannabis for adult use.